Hey, greetings everyone. I am Jeffrey L. Boney, host of Trending Tuesdays. We want to welcome everybody to Trending Tuesdays. Excited to be here. I am a Missouri City Council member as well as the associate editor of the historic Forward Times newspaper here in Houston, Texas. And I'm very, very excited to be here. I want to thank Danette Davis and K. Davis Associates for allowing me to be the host of this outstanding program. We're going to talk about issues that are important to all of us and things that we should know or need to know. And so I definitely want to, first of all, start off by taking a moment to honor someone that all of us should, commemorate and remember her life and her legacy. I'm talking about none other than Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Sheila Jackson Lee was a powerhouse, not only in politics, but as it related to community and public service. And I definitely will remember her. Two things of note that come to mind. I mean, I could come up with a lot of things other than her calling me from an unknown number about 2, 3 in the morning trying to get on the front page of the Forward Times with something that was pressing. When I was sick with COVID-19, not even knowing that I had COVID-19, I was supposed to go to an event for Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and she had found out I was ill. And she called me on that Wednesday morning, and she said, "Brother Boney," she said, "I heard you weren't feeling well." And I said, "Yeah, Congresswoman, I think maybe I got the flu or, stomach virus, because I don't have any of the symptoms that everybody is saying." And she said, "Well, have you gotten tested for COVID?" She said, "I just set up something at United Memorial Medical Center, and I want to connect you with Dr. Joseph Barone, who is the chief medical doctor." And I was like, "Well, I don't know if I got COVID, but, sure, I'll go get tested." And she said, "No, you need to get over there." So she set up a personalized meeting with Dr. Barone, got the swab on that Wednesday. Thursday, I was kind of feeling progressively worse. Friday morning, I started coughing up blood and called the doctor, and he told me to get back to UMMC. And I got there, and that's when I found out not only did I have COVID-19, but I was almost near death. I was in the ICU for 9 days and was able to overcome that health scare. But I thank Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee for caring enough about me to want to not only call me to check on me, but to make sure I got tested and checked up on. The other thing that I remember relative to the Congresswoman was when I got elected and sworn in for the first time in Missouri City, Texas, which is Fort Bend County, completely outside of her jurisdiction. She made it a point to come to my swearing-in ceremony and wanted to get on the microphone and share her congratulatory comments and remarks to me and express her affection and care for me as a friend. And I do know that Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee was not only a mentor to me, but she was a friend and a supporter, and she will deeply be missed by me as well as many others. I know there's services going on right now for her, and of course on tomorrow night at Wheeler, there's going to be a service, as well as Thursday at Fallbrook. But I want to introduce our guests, and I know that they probably will want to chime in about the Congresswoman as well. First and foremost, I want to introduce the president and CEO of Lane Staffing, a powerhouse in her own right. She is the largest minority woman-owned employment solution provider in the Southwest, and her name is Carla Lane. Let's give it up for Carla Lane, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And then next, I want to, before we go into the Congresswoman, want to introduce the former Houston City Council member and program founder of the Senior Assistance Funds Incorporation, which is a nonprofit organization giving back to the community and assistance to our senior citizens and our elderly in the community. I'm talking about none other than Dwight Boykins. Let's give it up for Dwight Boykins, everybody. Oh, y'all didn't give him no applause. It's probably because he's an alpha. But anyway, let's start off about the Congresswoman. You heard some of the comments, and of course we know that she passed away after dealing with pancreatic cancer, unsuspectedly hit her, and she fought to the very end. And so we'll start with you, Carla, your thoughts on the Congresswoman.
Well, probably about 2 weeks before she transitioned, I texted her just to say thank you and to let her know that I was praying for her. the Congresswoman decided that she was going to mentor me. That's just kind of how that happened. You remember long ago when you and I were first starting out, when we were emceeing, and I accidentally said, "Oh, the Congresswoman has finally arrived," because she was late. And she got on the mic and said, "I have never been introduced with a finally before, Carol." My name is Carla. And she called me Carol until she didn't. And once she decided I was Carla, she would call from an anonymous number and say, "Miss Lane, this is what I need you to do, and this is where I need you to be. Can you make it?" "Yes, ma'am." I finally remember when she decided that I was going to DC with her to Black Caucus, had the time of my life. But she made sure that I met President Obama. She made sure that I, as a staffing company, met the Secretary of Labor, and she put me on a panel for the SBA, like said, "This is what you're gonna do, prepare and don't embarrass me." I'm just grateful for the relationship, for the foresight that she gave me on how I needed to look at my business, government contracting, meetings at off of 288, that little diner. What is that diner off of 288? Denny's. She would call me and say, "Meet me at Denny's in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Never mind that I run a business, but I would be there. And she would sit and pour, and when she was ready to go, she would leave, and I would just say thank you. I'm grateful for that, and I think that for me, that was a modeling of how you make sure that you invest in the next generation. And she did it without, I know so many people probably have those stories, and there were no cameras. It was just her pouring, and I will forever be grateful for it.
Excellent, excellent. Dwight.
Well, first, let me just say, Jeff, Ms. Davis, thank you so much for having us here in your beautiful building. And Jeff, thank you for letting me be in your space. You know, it's very seldom a Omega man will allow an Alpha to come and overshadow him. I get it. Carla, always good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You know, I have several stories about the Congresswoman, and let me just, and I'm sure everybody's saying this, a lot of people just know her work ethic, but she was a Christian. That woman, I know she's in heaven. That's more important than anything at this point for me. A couple of memories. When I got to city council, my first trip over to Cuba, former council member Larry Green, who passed as well, had taken a delegation over, Jeff. And so in memory of him, the second year, a lot of the folk from the business community wanted to go, so I led the delegation. And attorney Victor Bonner ended up going. He had just lost his wife. And like my wife, I mean, if Janora go home tomorrow to be with the Lord, I'm just gonna go in the closet and sit, because I don't know where nothing is in the house. I don't know where nothing. And Victor's wife, his passport had expired. Now, we all in Cuba at baggage claim. And I'm checking the roster. I'm like, okay, somebody's missing. Where's Victor? Passport expired. His wife handled that for him. He didn't know. And so all of a sudden, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? And this young fella came and tapped me on my shoulder, and he was working for the U.S. Embassy in Cuba. Trump had shut down the government, okay? The government was shut down. So this guy tapped me on the shoulder, and he had Congresswoman Lee on the other phone, and so she gets on the line with me and said, "We're gonna do what we can." Almost like she don't know me. It was very professional. Dwight, council member, we're gonna do whatever we can to get Attorney Bonner, blah blah. I said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "Okay, Congresswoman." Gave the guy the phone back, and I need you to stay there. So we at baggage claim, and we're just sitting, and all of a sudden the guy comes back and said, "Council member, she's trying to get me to open up the embassy." Now, remember, Trump had shut down the U.S. government, and Sheila was trying to open up the embassy just to get Victor Bonner in. I said, "You can't say nothing about this woman to me, ever, because I know what she did." The second thing I want to say, some of you guys that live in the area familiar with this 288 HEB grocery store. When I became a council member, in our area, I live in Third Ward, we have an area where they refer to it as a food desert. So my professional work, unlike Carla making a whole bunch of money, I work in Washington, chasing federal appropriations. And I work with Sheila's office a lot. And that area has been where campaign signs has been for years. Jeff, remember? Because it's a wetland. It was an environmental issue. And so I said, that is a perfect location because it'll catch Pearland, it'll catch the Medical Center, Third Ward, South Park Center. Long story short, I went after it, and we went and found the money. I went to HUD and talked to the Deputy Secretary, and we got the money. And so Trump was out here campaigning, talking about Mexico building a wall. Y'all remember that? Mexico didn't put no money in. So he said, and we were like in the month of March, and Anise Park was the mayor. She rolled off, Sylvester Turner comes in. So Trump said, if you hadn't spent the money by March, he was taking it back. Now, we had already gotten the $14 million, even before Turner had come in, right? And man, I was so scared, Jeff, because I thought Trump was going to take the money. I told all these folk we have a grocery store coming. HEB had agreed the whole 9 yards. I called Sheila. I'm telling you, she said everything but Dwight, you waited till the last minute to call me. I called Sheila, man, in about 4 days, that money was released.
Wow.
You hear me? And that's how we got the $14 million about the dirt to set up, and the way we structured it, and she knows about it, the revenue that HEB was paying into the annual rent, because the dirt belongs to the government in a way, but you can't pay the government back. So they put the money there, and it's collected to build towards a down payment for another grocery store in a food desert area. And so that's Sheila Jackson Lee, man. If it wasn't for her fighting for that $14 million, Trump would have taken that money, called her, and placed that into this wall, that invisible wall he's talking about. And those are my memories.
And I think that a lot of people are going to truly now see what who Sheila Jackson Lee was,
yes,
and what Sheila Jackson Lee actually did.
Yes.
All of the people who would say, "Oh man, she ain't done nothing," or this, that, and the third. Sheila has done so much.
I think we saw some of that during Beryl, though. This most recent hurricane.
And COVID.
Yeah, COVID. But, it's so many stories like y'all's that can be shared, and mine, that can be shared about the Congresswoman. She showed up to everybody's baptism and, bar mitzvah and gala and breakfast and lunch and dinner and funeral and wedding. And, it was like nothing to her. I thought she had at least 3 or 4 clones, so she'd be in D.C. and here at the same time. It just was amazing. But she was a hard worker, and she loved the people. She loved her community, and she did so much. And I'm telling you, man, if we could all, be a microcosm of what she was, on this earth and who she was to this community, man, this world would be so much better. So, again, we want to send our respects to the Congresswoman, as well as our prayers for her family as they're dealing with this grief, this time of grief and trying to get through. May she rest in peace and in power. Let's give a moment of silence if we can. Thank you. Now, you said something, Carla, about her being a mentor to you and about encouraging you on the business front. I know that you being I want to get this right. I don't want to get it wrong. Now, the largest minority woman-owned employment solution provider in the Southwest. That's a big responsibility, and I know you've been doing it for some time. I know you have a journey that has gotten you to this place, but, with that pressure, with that responsibility, becomes a lot of stress and other things that come with being that level of business. So can you please talk about that and how you've been able to deal with that and what kind of things you're dealing with and kind of moving forward? So
one of the things that is probably unique to my journey is I've never worked in corporate America. I have always worked in small business. And so I went from being an accounting clerk at a small business that I eventually purchased. I purchased that business 15 years later. So I had to kind of figure it out as I was going. And I've dedicated the last 30 years of my life in staffing and building people. And I built a team around me. I built employees, but I did not pour back into myself. That's why mentors were so important to me, because while I was building a business, I didn't necessarily build a life. You know, I'm a mom, so you do the things to be a great mom. At the time, I was a wife, so you do all the things that the book say you're supposed to do to be a wife. But I didn't pay attention to my own soul. And so people are, you know, kind of laughing, or they're like, this is very interesting that Carla, who has this huge business, is online talking about joy and peace and girlfriend glitter. And I have all these insights about creating an amazing life, because what I've heard over and over and over again from women in particular is that we've not paid a lot of attention to our own hearts. And I think that's why there's so many people who are mean, like really mean. We see it on TikTok all the time over parking spaces. They're not mad about a parking space. People are upset about their lives. And so this part of my life, I'm still building my business. I still build the people that work within my organization. I'm in employment. That's the people business. My product is people. And so people need to be healthy to be amazing employees. They need to have a healthy mind. And so that's kind of where I've gone. And I'm working on creating a community, a safe place for women business owners, for women who are mothers, who are wives, who are single, a safe place to talk about the issues that we face that are very unique to us, and to help people to know that you can recover, that a failure is not an end, and we're going to support each other, and we're going to share stories, because there's so many things that I just didn't know. Nobody told me. You know, we have all these things about access to capital and how to get contracts and how to get certified, but how do you manage the emotions of not having peers when you're a business owner? Because there are emotions, and you can't get scared. I remember when my father was on earth still, my father was an entrepreneur, a professor, a pastor. I would call him. And I remember, you know, one day I didn't have enough money for payroll, and I had literally hundreds of people to pay. And so I was in my office crying, and I called my dad, and he was like, "Are you in your office crying?" And I was like, "Well, I got to figure this out." He was like, "Okay, put the phone down, stop crying, walk outside, because your employees cannot see you crying. Everybody gonna quit. The CEO in there crying." We need to have those conversations. And so I'm creating the space for that. That's what Girlfriend Glitter is. That's what Joy and Peace is. It's finding balance, all while building and all creating the life that you want professionally and personally.
Yeah, you know, I think that too, and that's amazing, because I think that you have to take time for yourself, because, you know, a lot of people see the glitz and the glamour, and they see the money or perceived money.
Perceived.
You know, and success, and they assume that you got it going on. You got it all together, that there's no issues, no problems in the world. Dwight, I know as a public servant, you and I serving in the public eye, as well as, you know, because we get a whole bunch of money as elected officials, right? With that being said, though, you know, knowing that we don't, let me correct that, because I want people to take that away. That you give so much, and you know, you don't get a whole lot in return. If anything, that's why it's important to pour back into yourself, or allow somebody to pour back into you. What are your thoughts on what Carla was sharing?
When she was talking, I said, Jeff and I are filling out an application to come work for Carla. What do you think about that? I think this is wonderful what she's doing, especially for ladies. And I hear you. I was thinking about my wife as you were talking, Carla, checking the boxes of the things you were saying. And she's luckily, through the grace of God, she's checked those boxes. And maybe she hadn't shared with me if she's had some of those situations where it's been challenging for her. But I think that's very healthy what you're doing. I really do. And I think those conversations need to happen with our black women. And, you know, they just need the caller to tell them they can get through it. So I commend you on that. What was your question to me, Jeff? I'm sorry, because I was so caught up in what Carla was saying.
What I was asking is about sometimes we give so much to others and not allow others to pour back in us, or allow ourselves to be poured back into in whatever shape, form, or fashion. We get caught up in the work, whether it be as an entrepreneur, whether it be in our corporate job, whether it be an elected official. Carla's doing something, and I want to get into what you actually are doing to help these women and yourself to get there. But that's what I was asking your thoughts on you know, what it takes to kind of, you know, pull back and allow yourself to be recharged, refreshed.
our faith, Jeff, is the number one thing in our marriage, and it's helped us a whole lot. We at Windsor with Kirby John and Suzette Caldwell, and just going through 30 years of being around Kirby John and listening to some different lessons he's taught, and our faith is very strong. Joel Osteen, Terry Anderson, DZ Kofi, all these are my friends, and we always have just different conversations about on the golf course, just about life in general. And so back to Carla, what she's doing, I think empowering these young ladies to be around someone positive with some positive information is going to help them. But I want to add to, Janora and I started our marriage off in a way of, she comes from two girls, and I come from a family with a single mother, with two parents, single parent with 6 brothers. And so when we came together, we had to get to understand one another. One thing we understood in our relationship was, one, our faith, number one. Number two, who was the strongest in what area in this bringing two together to become one. It wasn't just a wedding vow. We took that serious. And we started planning, saving our money, working, doing what we need to do. And we said at a certain point, we're going to give back to the community. We don't have to work. We do work. We don't have to work. You buy assets, you sell them off when you get to a certain point, you move on with life. That's the way we live, and we've been blessed with that. But the Seniors Assistance Fund that I put together while I was serving on City Council was simply, as I was telling some of the other guests coming in, that when I was knocking on the doors asking people to vote for me, screen doors falling, I said in a good heart, I said, ain't no way I can't give back to these people outside of what the city will do. And that's why we created it. And recently, the nonprofit, which is chaired by Ms. Dorothy Booker, we, after Hurricane Beryl, started receiving calls from seniors again, needing help because trees were falling from the hurricane in their front yard, backyard, couldn't get out the driveway. And we raised some money. And if you don't mind, I just want to give a thanks to some donors who gave us money to bless seniors. Roberts Markland Law Firm, those 2 young brothers gave us $10,000. And we were pleased. And then Pastor DZ Cofield gave us $5,000 from his congregation, and Terry Anderson at Lily Grove gave us $5,000, and Marcus Cosby at Wheeler gave us $5,000, and Tim Sloan at the Luke Church gave us $5,000. We still need more money because every single dime belongs to a senior in need. It's not for our nonprofit; it's just running through it. And so we've spent a lot of money. We have a company, and we blessed about 28, maybe 30 senior citizens where they didn't know where the money was going to come from, Jeff and Carla, to pay for this damage to their property, and we covered it for free. One of the recipients that everybody pretty much knows, the late Dr. Thomas Freeman's wife, Miss Freeman, off of McGregor. Her house had a massive pine tree, and a good friend of ours mentioned it to me, and I sent the crew over there, and they cut it up for her. And you feel good when you do stuff like that for your seniors, man. By the way, we ain't far from being a senior, so I'm trying to get my blessings.
You said who? We?
Oh, you right behind me, Jeff.
So on that note, we're going to segue back over here. Talking about we, I thought you were speaking French. So what are you doing? You have a program, Carla, to help deal with this?
So what we're doing now, it's a process. And so what I'm doing now is very much akin to what we did with This Woman's Work, my nonprofit, and stepping into strength in creating community. So initially we're doing that. I post on Tuesdays, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Just whatever's on my heart, whatever I've been dealing with. So it's a social media campaign, and it's evolving into services. So I'm developing relationships with mental health providers to help, because a lot of people need therapy. They got to talk to somebody. And so we're creating that community, creating events for women to go and to meet each other.
What are some of the things that, many of the women are dealing with?
There's a lot of isolation. What I found, a lot of women do not have friends. When you're in high school, you kind of are pushed into these friendships in college because you're with each other every day. But what happens when you become an adult is you have your own life, and then you're isolated. And your children, I'm at that age, not the senior citizen, but I'm at that age where, your children become adults, and you look around, and you don't have friends. You don't have relationships with other people that are like you. And so there's a lot of isolation. And then when things happen and you don't have a sounding board, that's when bad stuff happens. That's when people break down. That's when people are screaming in parking lots and being mean to old people. So we're building community, and eventually we'll host events so that women can gather and develop relationships. I always cringe when I hear, and I'm sure you've heard this before, some women say, well, I don't do women. Well, why? What has your experience been? And how did you contribute to that experience? Because how do you not like people that are like you? Mm-hmm. You know, that's a real question. Like, how do you not like people that are like you?
Carla, let me just, you made something else come to mind. In your journey, may not be, and you may be doing this, a bad idea for female A to interact and build a relationship with female C. And what I mean by that, A may be a person who is financially strong or have a lot of debt, and you, like Jeff said, you think they rolling. And this person here has zero debt but makes $30,000 a year, but they can give them something. Mm-hmm. And what happens, you find some people feel like they can't interact with that person, and that person becomes your best friend. Mm-hmm. People talk about the gay community, and I tell them, first of all, gay people don't bother you, you bother them, number one. Number two, they can become your best friends if you open up and just figure out who they are. They are people. And that ain't for you to judge. That's God's decision, because what you're doing ain't popular anyway. But I'm just saying, in general, people tend to say, if you're not in my equal financial, you can't go to the Hamptons with me, or you can't go to Martha's Vineyard, or you can't go this, I can't communicate with you. And they're breaking down because they're in their silos. You're absolutely correct.
Right. I think that's a mindset that we have to break through, and knowing that people are people, and we sometimes let things that are of no real anything get in the way of building relationships, which is crazy. You know, I think there was this is a crazy analysis, but I think about this a lot. I remember Flavor Flav told somebody was telling a story about Flavor Flav, and he was on MTV roasting somebody, and he was acting crazy, doing all the things that he does, and somebody asked him, well, why would you go and basically be a buffoon? He was like, I'm getting paid. I don't care what them people think about me. I'm gonna do my job because that's my job. I'm a clown. I'm a clown and get my money. Now, whether you agree with that or not, he has a strategy, and you could learn something from anybody.
That's my point.
As crazy as we all think Flavor Flav is, he has built a brand on acting up, being silly. But I saw a video too of him he plays classical piano. He plays a bunch of different instruments. This guy's a prodigy, but his brand is shenanigans. You can learn something from anybody. And so when we put people in boxes and say, oh no, I can't get anything from you because I'm this and you're that, well, you're really selling yourself short, because there's beauty in having friends that run the gamut, because you can learn something from just about anybody.
And I think that, this country has, and I think the world in general, there's a lot of barriers based off of, lots of things. We see now, and we're going to, segue after the break and talk a lot more about what's going on in our current events with politics and others, but you see now there's a huge barrier between people relative to politics, relative to religion, socioeconomic barriers, where you live, the color of your skin, racial barriers. So it's really things that I think contribute to a lot of this division and how people end up isolated and not having people at the end of the day that they have as true friends, because I think sometimes the only connectivity that some people have is based off of what they are affiliated with or what they're aligned to. But once that alignment may not be the same anymore, then that person really wasn't your true friend or your true partner. That person was just someone that, for the moment, agreed with you or was on the same page with you. But did you really build a relationship with that person, right? And I think that what I'm hearing is that, especially in business, I'm an entrepreneur. I worked in corporate America, entrepreneurship, and in the nonprofit sector. And in all those, I know relationships matter. But I know that a lot of the relationships that are built, some of them have been meaningful relationships, but most of them have been transactional.
Right.
And so once you're no longer of use,
Once the transaction
or
is
once
over,
the transaction is
the
over,
friendships go away.
right, the relationship is the relationship.
We
was
would
just
call
that.
it a friendship, though, you know? And,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the things that I dealt with, too. I did that whole thing where I did the road to 50. So I gave myself 5 years to create the life that I wanted. And so on the road to 50, I looked around and I was very honest about my life. I was very honest about what I saw, and I didn't like it. So I gave myself 5 years to get it together. And I found I had a lot of people around me because they thought I had some money and they profited from it. And when I started saying no, they went. And you have to deal with the fact that you thought you were significant to someone who you weren't. Like, their feelings about that. You think this is my friend, but if you were always paying the tab, is that really your friend, or are they eating for free?
Yeah, and council member, you were on council, and you had a lot of friends when you were the council member. New friends and people that they were quick to host a fundraiser for you, or to take you out to lunch, dinner, the Astros game. Well, if you took those gifts and reported them, of course. My point is, everybody wanted to get in front of you, talk to you, and the same with myself. But now, when you chose not to run for re-election, because you didn't lose, you chose to not to run for re-election, did that shift and that change up for you?
It's funny, and again, I'm just, Carl, I'm going to just follow you all night, just listen to you talk, because you just keep hitting some good points. But Jeff, my wife reminded me that, she said, baby, there's a difference between a friend and an acquaintance. You have a lot of acquaintance, you're trying to make your friend. Again, I grew up in a single family and all my brothers were close, and you get in our space, we take you in as a friend, and you have a motive or something else, and it hurts when we break up and we realize you were only acquaintance, just trying to get what they could. But, I'm just, I don't know, Jeff. I don't know, man. I went to city council with one mission, that was to help my people. The first year, because I think they pay down there, unlike you guys, about almost $70,000, I gave the salary up and hired me a young chief of staff who had just finished from University of Texas Law School, and gave her an opportunity to become a chief of staff. Now she's BP's Government Affairs Director. To give these young women and a couple of young guys an opportunity to learn the government. And I wanted to do something. I know in the Sunnyside area they had talked about some of the issues, and I said, the late Rodney Jones, he passed, was telling me how they always neglected Sunnyside. And I created what we call a TERS, a tax increment reinvestment zone out here. And the TERS was structured, for those who may not be aware, it's structured to where a part of the revenue that normally goes to the city stay here. And you get to select as a council member your board members. A lot of times they pick people that's been supportive of them, and as a thank you gift, I picked everybody from Sunnyside. It's your community, make it great. And we did that. So I'm saying that to say, I didn't go down there looking for no free Astros. Matter of fact, when the Super Bowl came here, if you remember, and I'm not bashing nobody, Jeff, you threw it out there. But when the Super Bowl came, and I'm not perfect, I make mistakes like everybody else. But God gave me discernment on that, I'm telling you. I told the guy who brought the tickets to my office, I said, man, sign these tickets back to you, because they had to sign for them, and my secretary signed. I said, I don't want them. Matter of fact, I'm going to send a press release and let the media know I'm having my own Super Bowl party. They're welcome. The next day, one of the reporters put on the news bashing all the free tickets that was given to council members, and they say, except Dwight Boyd gets it. Yeah. But anyway, I'm saying that to say I didn't go down there looking for friends. I mean, I'm a friendly person. I was trying to help these people.
But they came looking for you, is my point.
They did.
And what I'm saying is, sometimes when you're in a position of authority,
absolutely,
power,
you're right,
or perceived power, and you seem as if, well, you may seem as if you're doing well, or you may be doing well.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be, you're going to attract people,
and they drop off once you're off of council.
And if it like one of my mentors once told me, Jeff, the same people you see going up are the same people you'll see coming down.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if they're still there when you're coming down, those are your true friends
Yeah.
and not just associates and acquaintances. These are people that they were with you when you were going up, and they're with you when you're coming down. And
you know who they are.
If God forbid you come down.
Right.
And you know who they are, Jeff. And you, again, when you serve, whether in Carla's business or in the Ned Davis business or in Karen with Forward Time, you know who your true friends are. I mean, the discernment will let you know.
I think
You
one of
may
the
not
things you
wanna
have to
face it,
do
but you know.
is that you have to pray for discernment.
Absolutely.
Because I know another thing my dad would always tell me is to be really careful about reading your own press, because you can start to believe it.
Yeah.
And when the press changes, you'll believe that too. And so just having that discernment, having that wisdom, creating that village that supports you, because again, entrepreneurship is hard. It's hard from a business standpoint, but it is hard emotionally, and we just do not talk about it, and we need to, and have to create these silos for us to exist and to take care of each other.
So we're about to take a break here and segue and bring in one of our other guests. First of all, I want to thank you, Dwight, and you, Carla. If you have a website or any information, Dwight, here's an opportunity for the Senior Assistance Funds Incorporation. Is there a website or some contact information for people?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. If you would like to make a donation, that's what we need. Call me directly on my cell, 713-203-2835. Again, no salaries with our executive team, no perks. 100% of your money help these seniors. So if you want to make a donation to help us out, join the team.
All right. And Carla, tell us quickly about your business and how people can contact you or visit your website.
So I will not be giving my cell number, but you can follow
If she
me.
don't write me a big check, I'm going to give it to you. I'm teasing, Carla. You know
okay.
I'm kidding.
But you can follow me on social media, Carla K. Lane, or definitely check out Lane Staffing's website. We are always hiring. Yes, Lane Staffing is always hiring. It's at lanestaff.com. And there are going to be some great things coming, some great opportunities for women to get together, to support each other, to heal, and to just create great organizations for, I think the community is better when women business owners succeed. I think the world is better. I think y'all are going to talk about that, the power of women, a little bit later. And thank you for having me.
And I just wanted to make sure, you said the company's name is Lane Staffing, but the website is Lane Staff.
Now you can
without
go
the
to you
ING.
can go to Lane Staffing. Both of them point to lanestaff.com. So you can go to lanestaff.com, or you can go to Lane Staffing, because again, yes, Lane Staffing is always hiring.
Well, I'm so excited to have you both on. I've known Carla since she started Lane
Yes.
Staffing, and have known Dwight for many years as well. So how long you been in business now?
We're coming up on 20 years.
20 years almost. Let's give them both a round of applause, everybody. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with Dwight and our other guests. Trending Tuesdays.
Good job, my brother.
Mic test.
Plantation is our host tonight. You're at Trending Tuesdays, and we're doing a break. But what I want you to do is meet a young lady who, at really quick notice or whatever, brought her art down. You know, we've been rocking this. I tell the way we've been rocking this for a while. What have you? You know, you guys know who that is, right? But then she's one of our. Do we call him our partner? Is Anj, but he has. Tell me a little bit about yourself. These are artists that work with him, his proteges, what have you, and we always feature their art. Know that the art can be purchased. I want to say that. We'll always feature it when we have events and things like that here, but I want her to tell a little bit about herself during the break.
Yes, my name is Ashley Banks. Ashley Banks with Ashley Banks Creative. I work under Anj. I work under Anj Hills. He's been mentoring me for over about a year now, and so through the process, it's been fun, amazing experience. I get to create these pieces. So I did. Here's Jimi Hendrix and Selena and Michael Jackson.
How you guys doing tonight? All right, my name is Anj Hills, and I'm a performance speed painter. And this is Ashley Banks. She's under me. Some of you guys might have seen some of my work. I did George Floyd's. I performed during the George Floyd funeral, which got me to do a Time magazine cover. So that was a very good accomplishment. And since then, I was able to kind of support different artists. Right now, I have about 15 artists that kind of mentor and try to kind of give them a path to pretty much be able to create paintings and do what I do. So some of these pieces that you're going to see here, Ashley's been painting only for 1 year. So I kind of give them ideas and different tricks and ideas of the stuff that I do. So if you see some of my work, they usually take like 5 minutes. I do them upside down. That's the entertainment. And Ashley was able nowadays to do the same thing. You know, if you book her, she definitely can create something like that for you guys.
You guys, we don't have any video to roll, but he's being so humble. This guy, I met him at a party when he was at a politician's party. I won't call any names, what have you, but he was painting it and this thing and then had it to music. And I'm looking at it, and then when he finished it and he flipped it over, because he did it now, it was a picture of a picture, but he did it freehand, upside down. And when he flipped it over, I'm like, oh my God. So I've got to have you here. So he was at our Christmas party, and he did a picture of me and my husband, what have you. And I told him, I said, geez, that picture's so big. That's it's bigger than us full size. So he's reducing it for us, what have you. But he's being very, very modest. He's nationally and internationally known for his work, and he does this thing in the community. And I know he doesn't get paid for it. He's being, like I said, very humble about it. But I just wanted you to know that these people are amongst you. We have plenty of partners that we share with. K. Davis in the community. We are that. We're that in the community, and everything we do, or what have you. I got to learn like Dwight. I got to say. TrendingTuesdays.com and K. Davis in the community or what have you. You can go there, and everything you see that we do, the podcast and all these things, if you write a check, it benefits those kinds of things. I have to learn how to do that, Dwight. I'm not quite. I tell Lauren all the time, Lauren, we got to learn how to raise money. We got to get better. K. Davis cannot fund everything. But we try. The things we do, though, are value. These folk that are here tonight, Jeff and Carla, whatever, they talked about friendship and relationships. These folk, I pick up the phone, and they didn't hesitate. Not a second. Dwight, none of them. And all the guests we've had, and Janice Beal and Lalu last night, and the ones that are coming, Carlisha Wright and some of the others that we've already, we know that are coming, Sharita Tate, oh my God, just really at the last minute. But with the recent things that are going on, I'm going, you guys are the experts. You're doing things that matter to people, and we want to start here, but we want this to be an international. I said international. I didn't say national, but we saw what happened with George Floyd and that event and how it affected things nationally, or what happened internationally. We know that the things that we're doing matter, and it matters to everybody. So the same things that are going on here is happening in some village in over in Europe and other things or whatever, Netflix is letting us see that, right? We're getting to see that the same things are going on. So I just want to say thank you. And they're doing the little wind down thing, so I'm going to close. But remember, we'll do it at the end. We'll show you the pieces. And if you have any interest, we'll let you bid or something or work something out because we want to get them paid. Okay? They're young people. And they vote.
Yes. Thank you so much for your amazing work.
You're out.
All right, y'all, we're back. This is Trending Tuesdays. I am your host, Jeffrey L. Boney. Excited to be here. Still have Dwight Boykins with us, former Houston City Council person, as well as the program founder of the Senior Assistance Funds Incorporation. And now we have joining us Dr. Sharita Tate. She is the founder and president of the 929 Foundation, which is a foundation that is, of course, dedicated to her cousin, George Floyd, who was murdered at the hands of a police officer in a brutal fashion, caught on video. She is an advocate for justice, equality, and civil rights, and she has continued her journey for justice for her cousin, fallen cousin, George Floyd, as well as many others. Thanks for joining us today on Trending Tuesdays. Let's give her a round of applause, everyone. All right, so we'll jump into some other conversations here. First, I want to start off, I'm sure all of you may have seen by now the video, horrific video, and I know it probably is kind of rehashing a lot with you, the young lady, and we were talking about earlier about women and support of women, but this woman called the police seeking assistance, and they assisted her in a way that is unimaginable by murdering her, because she went to get a pot of boiling water, and she was dealing, of course, with some mental illness challenges, and she was brutally murdered, shot 3 times.
3 times.
By saying, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," and picking up the boiling pot of water. And this coward cop, I'm just gonna say it, murdered this black woman in cold blood because he was afraid of some boiling hot water. Anyway, your thoughts on that, Dr. Tate?
Yeah. Well, I have actually opted not to watch the video in its entirety, so I've taken a lot of the information about it from just clips and people discussing it. And it certainly is reminiscent of what we experienced, with what happened with George. I mean, I just can't even imagine. And the fact that there are people who are trying to rationalize why he would have been justified in doing this. And people saying, well, he must have, been fearful in some sort of way. is just asinine. I mean, I just can't believe that people even think there's any justification.
I mean, it is
in
water.
doing- Yeah.
I mean, I can see how you're afraid of some water.
Yeah. And,
I mean,
and
'cause
it
it was
hot
hot.
water. It was hot water.
Yeah, boiling
But,
hot.
but he had an option to actually leave. You know, in my mind, I'm thinking once he had gotten there, he had an opportunity to, clear the scene, see that there was not an intruder. Why did it go to the point where he was asking her for identification? If he had left, we could have avoided all of this. So we just kind of think about the mindset of somebody who was in there. And again, I feel like it's a situation where he did not have his body cam on. So I really don't feel like he thought a lot of what he was doing was being captured. It was because of his partners being on that we were able to really be able to see what took place in the end. So,
And you know what really is disturbing to me is the callousness that this coward cop had, and I'm gonna continue to say that. This is Jeff Boney talking, in that, first of all, he was a safe distance away from her.
yes,
He had a weapon, and she had a pot of boiling water. And to your point, the seeking to justify what happened, she called the cops. And it was indicated that she called the cops, and yet he felt in fear of his life to the point where, and then he made callous comments. He didn't try to offer or render aid. I mean, it's like he had no concern about killing this black woman in cold blood. And so when you think about it, I feel like, man, we're getting to a place where it's almost as if people are becoming numb to these type of incidents. And you heard the former president on the campaign trail indicate at one point in time that he wanted to have these officers receive full immunity for doing their job. Like he got immunity for committing crimes as president of the United States. What are your thoughts, former council member?
Again, it brought up memories of what George went through. And, the good news about this, there's no good news, but interesting enough, they prosecuted this guy quick, this cop, because they found him guilty, if I'm not mistaken. I saw something where he was arrested, and I thought he was charged with murder. Is that correct?
what are you talking about? The Sonia Massey? Or-
Yes.
Yes, he
And
was
so
charged.
it wasn't like we've had, you remember when my man with Skittles,
Trayvon.
Trayvon Martin.
how long it took for this knucklehead to get off, but how long it took. This one here seemed like it happened pretty quick. It's sad, Jeff. I mean, I told my wife, I said, hell, it seemed like every time we have a black candidate run for president in that year, somebody black gets shot or murdered or something. Golly, I mean, this woman here was the video I saw, and I respect why you haven't looked at it. It was when she rebuked him, in the name of Jesus Christ, I heard pow, pow, pow next. Not the water, not the threat. I mean, it was so far apart, it was no threat. And so when I saw he was being charged, I said, because I've served on grand juries, I said, maybe it went to a quick grand jury and they found him guilty. I need to follow up and see where it is now. I don't know where it is, but I just saw his mugshot, and they said he was found guilty. He was guilty of being charged, of murder.
But
First degree murder.
But you
First
all,
degree, yeah.
I think what's disturbing to me is the fact that he shouldn't have had to be
That's
charged.
correct.
He shouldn't have had to have been arrested. She should still be alive.
Period.
He never should have shot at her.
Right, yeah.
This
think-
never should have been an issue.
I think that was just about to be my point. It's sad that we've come to the place where we're now celebrating that the fact someone is being charged
Right.
for a crime that should never have been committed.
Exactly.
And I just don't see any justice. It's interesting to me, with people who have experienced this level of loss, the only real justice would be able to have your family member back.
Yes.
And because you can't have that, we have to really work hard to at least have a measure of justice. And that's why it's important. I personally have not stopped, working towards this since George was murdered, because they haven't stopped killing us. I mean, yes, of course, Sonia Massey's case, you've had Tyree Nichols and some other people who've been more high profile, but the truth of the matter is they are killing people every single day.
Yeah.
Unjustifiably, no threat to them with no weapons. And so we definitely have to continue to work on this, because it just doesn't make any sense.
I was thinking, and I really want to segue into this. We're in presidential election year. But not only is the president on the ballot, or who will be the next president, but also a lot of down ballot races. The future of the Congress, the House and the Senate, which will make a huge difference as to the future of this nation, is also going to be decided. The Republicans currently hold a razor-thin majority in the House, and of course the Senate has 50. Well, they had a tie with Manchin, but Manchin has decided that he wasn't going to continue on, which could potentially lead to a Republican winning in West Virginia. But depends on what happened in these. So, depending on what happens there, the vice president, who is currently Vice President Kamala Harris, was the deciding vote,
Right.
as per the Constitution, where she's allowed to cast the deciding vote when there's a tie. And that's happened quite a few times. She's had the most in the history of any vice president. But there's the George Floyd Justice Bill that's been passed by the House in previous times, and was not passed by the Senate, and so it never got to the president's desk. So this is very, very critical, because some of the things and reforms and things that could prevent or hold accountable or put more guardrails in place for officers like that, in advance of making or at least put it on their mind if they make this type of action or decision. It's been stalled because of politics.
It has
So
been.
how important is this election to you all, knowing that the future of our country is really, I know it's been said a lot, the future of our country is at stake, but to me, this is probably the election for the ages.
Yeah, I think I would definitely agree with that. And you're right. The George Floyd Policing Act was passed in the House twice and fell short when it got to the Senate. And, the issue that was really problematic for them, or the reason why it was getting hung up, is the qualified immunity piece. And of course, the only real opportunity that we would have for getting that passed, I feel like, is if we Democrats would gain control of the Senate again, because at least, because that's where the problem has been, is getting it over that hump. So it definitely is important, and we're just not going to stop. It's like I said, we've had the best possible climate a few years back, and where we thought we really were at a place where it could happen. President Joe Biden did do the executive order for the Policing Act, but, the executive order is not the same as actually having a bill, so.
It can be reversed.
It can be reversed.
At any time.
Absolutely, and we've seen that happen in other instances where, it could be in place, an executive order be in place, and then the next president could come in and reverse it. So it is critically important. But I think just not about that. I mean, overall, there is, I think the thing that's been bothersome to me is just this level of apathy with voting that we have right now. There's a lot of people who really don't feel that it's important to vote. And I know that it's critically important, not just, for our national elections, but more importantly for the local elections. And I struggle with that even with my own. I have a daughter, the 23-year-old daughter, who, is saying, it's no point, what are we going to vote for? It's not going to change anything. And so, but I know that the sentiments don't just stop with her. There is a whole group of people right now who don't want to vote. And I've said to her, your votes matter, because if it didn't matter, they wouldn't try so hard to take the right away from us. So you have to do your part. And so I have, I've been able to encourage her, and I'm involved in trying to get people registered, trying to make sure people understand that, and to try to change their mindset.
Yes.
Because it's critically important that every person does their part. That's the one thing that everybody can do, is to get out and exercise your right to vote.
Dwight.
Well, Congresswoman Lee was a big fighter in the House for this bill, and you're absolutely correct. I think, and both of you guys, Jeff, you were so much on point about this election being one of the, we hear it a lot, but one of the most important elections, because you have one candidate talking about a dictatorship. He's very clear. He said, just give me one more election. He assuming the House and Senate will come with him, but he wants it to create that type of government. and there are some folk who will follow him with that nonsense. But it won't happen because Kamala Harris will win this race, I predict. I think Ted Cruz is going to be in for a run in the Senate. For the first time, we'll have a Democratic senator in a while, since Kruger, I think. And so I think I think we're going to turn out, and I'm using this, Jeff, and I'm sorry, what's your first name?
Sharita.
Sharita, yeah, Miss Sharita. I'm using this, Sharita and Jeff, based on the demographic. When President Obama ran, you remember a lot of people voted like your daughter, probably for the first time. I'm just using her as an example. You have Kamala Harris, who's part Asian, part
She's
Nigerian,
South
South
Indian,
Indian,
and
Jamaican, that are registered voters in the United States that typically wouldn't vote, that can move that needle in those swing states. They gonna turn out and vote because they see history being made. African Americans are turning out. I was on a call, Black Men for Kamala, breaking numbers. White men for Kamala, white women for Kamala, because they know what they have on the other side. So if she wins, I believe she will win the White House. We turn out. We get the House and the Senate. George Floyd bill, reparations, civil rights, I mean, all kind of things. John Lewis will come through and she will sign it. As a former prosecutor, I see her moving forward on that. So it's important that we do what we need to do to get this vote out. And local elections are just as important.
Yes, they are. I think I would agree with you. I think I've seen the momentum shift. And, there was kind of like, we needed that jolt with President Joe Biden, and I definitely respect him for, stepping down and allowing her to be able to move forward. Because once that happened, it was almost, you saw like immediately there was a shift in the momentum and people were more excited. It's like we were re-energized. And I was on one of those calls too with Women Who Win. There were so many people.
Why did y'all raise more money than we did? What was the problem? Y'all didn't want us to do y'all?
Listen, we weren't playing any games on that call. we were on it, and so I'm confident too that she will. I feel strongly that she will. It won't be because we haven't put forth every effort to try to make sure it happens. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, I mean, I applaud, and it started a trend, the Women Who Win and the Black Women for Kamala event, really just kind of was a spark.
Yeah.
The million that was, over $1 million that was raised in that short time period, and the number of women galvanized on that call. But then, a couple of days later, I was on that call as well with the men, Black Men for Kamala, and that was hosted by your fraternity brother and my fellow JY alum, Roland Martin. And we raised well over $1 million as well, 16,000 some odd, donations and people that contributed. I gave towards that effort. And then that's when you saw, after the black women led the way and then the black men followed, and then all of a sudden you got the white women and the white men and the Asian people and everybody. But you know what? We are always trailblazers and trendsetters. We always are the ones that set the trends, and and people follow. And I think to your point, there was there was 170 in 1 week, 170,000 volunteers. People that said that they would block walk, that they would phone bank, that they would do anything necessary to get Kamala Harris elected as the next president of the United States. So there has been a huge momentum shift. There was a recent ABC poll that showed that her favorability rating was higher than his, the former president, and that she had closed the gap within 2%.
Yes.
2%, which is phenomenal. And then to see what kind of impact that's going to have on the down ballot races, not only in Texas, but across the United States. I think that really, if this momentum continues, because there's a short runway and window of time, and I don't believe that they're going to be able to go at her the way that they want to. Now, they can take off the gloves, which I'm almost certain they will. But they have some issues internally on their own as well. You have their vice presidential candidate, J.D. Vance, who has a bunch of baggage, and they're trying to do a lot of cleanup, and even Trump is considering kicking him off the ticket and replacing him with someone else. So they have a lot of damage control that they want to do, but it's indicative of the pride that he has to try to have somebody that will co-sign any and everything that he does and who he is and how he thinks. And he picked the wrong horse in this instance. But nonetheless, we are where we are. So we have the presumptive, because she's not, what's going to happen is, of course, they're going to have a virtual roll call vote that takes place. She's already preliminarily secured enough delegates to shore up the nomination. They're looking to do a virtual roll call vote online, and then doing that prior to the convention. The convention is August 19th through the 22nd. But on August, I want to say 1st, is when they're looking to do the first roll call vote, and then that's when we'll know if and when she secures the delegate votes to secure the nomination to become the Democratic Party nominee for November.
Let me say this, Jeff, you explained it perfectly. And for people who don't sleep and wake up with this stuff like we do, let me just kind of explain some of the movement. And you were right on point about her closing the gap. But when the independent candidate, Robert Kennedy, is in that number, she's above him by 3 points. 3 or 4 points. She was up. So you have some independent voters that really hadn't decided, because Kennedy probably will not take, a large percentage of those undecided. But let me just kind of say this. What's going to happen is this, man. Timing couldn't be better for Kamala.
Right.
Because
Perfect.
President Biden was down when she announced, when the letter came out from Biden that he would support her, her numbers went up in swing states and overall. Then she started raising the money, as you mentioned.
81 million.
What's going to happen is this. When every new state, this is free. When she get the delegate count, everybody, the number's going to go up. It's just the way it is. When she select her vice president, the number's going to go up. The convention, you have the convention boost, the number goes up. Then you're going to have surrogates hitting those swing states, the Obamas, the Clintons, the Eric Holders.
And Biden.
The Bidens. You're going to have everybody. And there's not enough time. And she's going to have plenty of money. Not enough time for Trump and his negative. They going to frame him. Don't think they're not going to frame him. Here's the boogeyman and the truth. The other day I got a video, and I just couldn't believe, I guess I could, but he actually said, came out of his mouth, do you want a black president or a white president?
Yeah,
I said,
I saw that.
can I play that again? I said, did he really say? So I started looking at his lips, making certain somebody wasn't cutting it. I'm like, this nut said that. So the point I'm making is, Jeff, you guys, between now and after the convention, don't assume the boogeyman gonna scare people not to turn out. I think it's gonna be, they're gonna turn out record numbers, and you got surrogates continue to put the foot on the gas pedal. She's gonna beat him pretty bad.
Well, let me tell you where I think we need to really put our attention towards, and something that really deeply concerns me. There have been a lot of statewide changes as it relates to voting.
Yes.
A lot of restrictions and things as it relate to who can, be at the polls, and some of the things with the ballots and how they disqualify a lot of ballots, and of course reducing the times and locations of where people can vote and when they can vote. So I'm not only concerned about those restrictions and those legislative public policy changes that have impacted states like Texas, Florida, Georgia, and others, which are swing states. I believe Texas this year will be a swing state for the first time.
I agree.
But I'm also concerned with a lot of the misinformation campaigns that's going on. I don't know if you all saw where Elon Musk, who is now the owner of Twitter, he retweeted or posted a AI generated video of Vice President Kamala Harris, but it wasn't true. But it was spread as if it was factual. And I'm like, if you have the head of Twitter who's using this powerful platform to spread misinformation, and people rely heavily on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, etc., there's going to be a lot of that going on to try to spread misinformation and use these as tools to get people confused that may be undecided or on the fence or independents, etc., or young people who feel like it doesn't matter.
I would agree. I mean, once it's out there, even if they retract it, there's so many people who've already made up their mind about the information when they receive it. So, yeah, it's dangerous, but I feel like that these are desperation tactics at this point. Whenever they start doing stuff like this, you can tell that there's this fear. Because I don't think they anticipated, number one, that she would even be in a place where she could be the presumptive nominee. That's the first thing. And the other thing is now that she's here, the numbers and the momentum, they see it just like we see it. So you can probably, I bet, if I'm a betting person, you're going to see more things like that, anything that they can do to try to break that momentum up.
Yeah, there's an old proverb that says, never take lightly someone who has absolutely nothing to lose.
Absolutely.
And so, those desperation tactics, should not be taken lightly because they're serious, and it's something that I'm not saying we should be scared of.
Right.
But we should be cognizant of and be not only on the offense, but also on the defense.
But Jeff, I'm gonna tell you guys, I truly believe Kamala gonna hit him back.
Mm-hmm.
She's not just gonna take the high road. If he come and hit her with something, and she has a good team.
Mm-hmm.
She has a great team around her that knows how to win. And I don't think they would just react to every stupidity or stupid move or ad that's out there, but they will come up. They're looking at raw data, looking at these swing states, what's moving these people, and I think they're going to respond. Where we may say, they sent this negative piece out on her, blah, 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 she's not responding. I think they're taking data and making decisions based on that. But they're going to have enough money to respond to some of this stuff.
But I want to talk about this because it's really it's eye-opening to me. And now, historically, if you look at the history of the world, it shouldn't be as surprising or shocking. But when you think about the fact that this man is a convicted felon.
Yeah, 34 times.
This man is a convicted felon. He settled a case with a lady about sexual harassment, settled the case. Mm-hmm. So in essence, kind of admitting guilt. He had the college university issue where he got fined and found guilty about that, as well as several others. He got a few other election interfering and all this stuff going on in New York, in Georgia. Mm-hmm. I'm like, these individuals still are gung-ho in supporting this man. This is the party of Lincoln. These are the people that are the moral compass of the world, allegedly. These are the conservative, what they call them, what kind of Christians they call themselves?
I can't even think of it right now.
Start with a C, I think.
You shouldn't have said that. Come on, keep talking.
Well, anyway, these are the, what is it? No, they call themselves evangelicals, but anyway, they're the ones, the cream of the cream when it comes to serving God and following God's pathway. But yet you will overlook this man who is everything against what you say you believe in. All for party? Make it make sense.
Well, it's not a party. The Republican Party is no longer a Republican Party. Most Republicans, and I was at I shouldn't say where because it'll tip, but I was at a reception fundraiser, and it was Democrats and Republicans there. Prominent Republican. Made my way around, just spoke to him, and we started small talking about the presidential election. Shocked me, told me he was voting for Kamala over Trump. He said, now a lot of people in the family look crazy at me, but he said, I no way I would vote for Trump. I said, what? He was voting for Biden, I'm sorry, during that time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying that to say independent and moderate Republican women were Democrats years ago when Ann Richards was governor and even when Bush was governor. And they moved on this Tea Party thing over to the right. Mm-hmm. They're not falling for all this nonsense, Jeff. I don't believe it, and I think they're coming back in the middle to lean with Kamala because this guy on the other end is just so to the extreme to where they're not in line with that. Now, one issue I'm surprised you hadn't brought up. What's amazing me are black men running over on the other side. I don't get that, Jeff.
I was
Well, I mean,
I don't get it.
there's not this lion's share of black men running over.
I don't think it's
a
a large
narrative
perc-
that's been pushed out there.
Yeah, I don't
that
think
we
it's
just
a-
are just in mass.
Yeah.
Going to the Republican Party or supporting Trump. I do believe that there's some, or there's some people that are being touted as, you
Yeah.
look at. Just because you take a Eric Johnson, for instance, the mayor of Dallas, who ran as a Democrat, won
And I
as a
donated
Democrat,
to him as a Democrat.
Yeah.
He needs to get my money back.
ran as a Democrat, won as a Democrat, and then
And then switched
shifted
to the Republican
and
Party,
switched
yeah.
to the Republican Party. And now he's speaking at the Republican National Convention as this staunch Republican. I think that a lot of this is clout chasing and trying to get a position. But I just think that there's a narrative that's being pushed out there that black men are just somehow just in mass exodus. Black men are still supporting the Democratic Party. It's not as close as it used to be between black women and black men. But let's not lose sight of the fact. Let's not just hone in on black men. Let's talk about the 54% of white women that supported and voted for Donald Trump when he won for presidency. And so I think that
I wanted you and I to have and I'm saying this as two black men. Why? What are you hearing? Why black men would vote for Donald Trump based on?
Yeah, that's a good
his-
question
Well-
because in looking at the data, the research, and I'd encourage everybody, the TSU, U of H, they tend to have a lot of polling data that comes out there. Dr. Michael Adams,
Oh, yeah.
is one of those. And what is found is that a lot of the issues that are important to African American men are not being talked about when it comes to the electeds or local, county, state, or federal. They're not hearing these conversations that are touching their what's important to them.
But they're hearing it on the
Items.
Republican side, right?
Well, they're
Right?
looking for alternatives.
Yeah. But they
and
know what's
so-
over there.
And so they may be hearing some of these things about the economy, about
Biden has one of the best
about-
economies
about-
ever.
I'm not trying to say.
I know. I'm just telling you
Yes
what
and
I'm
no,
saying.
I'm just telling you what people are. So let's talk about this. All right.
So that they had this, we're trying to say that Trump was more relatable to our black men. Now this.
Especially the ones that have been incarcerated.
That's right, that's what they
Yeah.
were trying to say.
But let's talk about what's happening here. And this is interesting to me because we're spending a lot of time combating Project 2025. Project 2025 is a conservative think tank's agenda
Correct.
put out by the Heritage Foundation. The question is, what is the Democrat think tank's agenda and talking points? Why are we not talking about what is important to African American men from a Democratic perspective?
Biden had a
women.
strong agenda, Jeff. A lot of people. I get your point.
It's not relating to
I
people.
know.
It's not being pushed down enough. It's not. People are not hearing that message. Is my point.
Right.
You
No,
hear a lot about Project
They're
2025,
spending a lot of time trying to lay out what's in Project 2025.
which is not the Democratic agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, they're by virtue of the fact that Democrats are talking about a Republican conservative agenda, they're doing their job for them. They're spreading the message about their agenda to the masses for them.
But it's in a negative way. I hear you, Jeff. But
it's
I don't,
still-
it's not. I hear you. It's,
All
it's a
press
talk.
is
I
good
got-
press in some cases.
I know.
good
I
or
can't.
bad.
I can't debate you on that one because you're pro that. You're right. But all people, they could be thinking the year 25, not knowing. Right now, 2025 is a pushback. Right, it's very negative right now, regardless of
What's the alternative?
I hear you. No, that's an excellent point. But Jeff, let me say this to you. And maybe because you and I sleep this stuff. Read. All they have to do is see what President Biden has done. It was laid out. Just hear me out. Laid out.
They're not going to read.
I know, but they looking for someone to tell them something negative instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to go and see what Democrats are doing. All right? Because your mama, your grandma will turn over their grave and slap you for talking about supporting an agenda that Trump is talking about based on what they fought doing segregation, the whole 9 yards. But Jeff, hang on. So you get a job, an education, $1 in your pocket, and damn, you think you better than, come on, man. Come on. Read and see what the agenda is. I don't hear that at the cigar. For those who know me, I'm a big cigar guy. I love smoking cigars and strike up conversations with blue collar, white collar, no collar person. And sometimes you run across brothers that are Republican, and they get to tell me all the drinking this Kool-Aid, and I just laugh. And I just tell them, I said, man, look, just answer this question respectfully. Your mama and grandma agree with you? I ain't got time to waste my last breath on earth arguing with some nut over something, some talking points he or she done heard, and trying to criticize what the Democrats are doing. They've done a lot. They've saved Social Security. They've saved Medicaid, Medicare. This Trump is trying to, Jeff, go out and buy private insurance. President Obama brought in what we call affordable health care. I worked for St. Joseph Hospital in Washington during that time. And we were trying to get this situated where it was affordable for everybody. And in order for President Obama to get what he had passed, you remember he had pre-existing conditions. He had a whole bunch of carve-outs in there. He had to compromise with Republicans.
But you know what, Dwight?
But they don't want
to. It
to
goes back to what Dr. Tate talked about. Apathy. Voter apathy. You're preaching to the choir here. What about those that are not voting, those that are not reading, those that are not concerned about the agenda or all of the stuff that you just talked about relative to President Obama and President Biden? Those are the people that we cannot give up on and we have to reach.
Correct.
But the question is, how do we do that? We can't just tell them to read. I mean, come on, you know, I got kids. I used to tell my kids to do stuff and they just ignored the hell out of me. So come on now, just because you tell somebody to do something, you know, doesn't mean they'll do it. I wrote my book is called Don't Argue With Me. A no nonsense approach to the issues in the black community. One of the chapters in my book is "It's Not My Fault Black Folks Don't Read," and in there I talk about though the fact that people think about it. I just want us to think about this for a second. Many of us, if not all, go to church. How many people bring their Bible to church? No, I'm saying, I mean, just think about it in mass.
Yeah.
How many people bring their Bible to church? And if they do bring their Bible to church, you know, the pastor say, you know, turn this, whatever the scripture is. If they don't have their Bible, or if they do have their Bible, they're going to listen to the pastor. The pastor's going to preach their sermon. He could say a whole lot of stuff, and they're going to yes and amen, and they're going to hoop and holler, and not fact check nothing that pastor said, because they believe everything coming out of that pastor's mouth.
Preach, Rev Boney.
It's the gospel.
Preach, Rev Boney.
It's the gospel. And so all I'm saying is there are a lot of people that are going to just simply rely on what they source or resource for them. So if that's not being disseminated to them in the channels and the ways that they can read it or digest it and it's palatable to them, then guess what? They're going to still be on the fence or on the sideline or going over to vote for Trump or whatever the case may be, because they don't know any better, because they haven't been educated. They haven't been uplifted and enlightened. So we can't give up on them. And I'll end with this. I remember when I used to be on the block in South Park. It was a part of Houston, Texas. And it was a Sunday morning, and I saw this couple in their Lincoln Town car driving to church in their nice little outfit. One of them had their little church hat on and everything. And they was headed to church, and I remember the lady looking over at us, shaking her head. And she was shaking her head, and you know, she had that judgmental type of shaking her head. And I know that they were probably talking about, look at them, you know, they over there up to no good, which we were. But what they didn't know, though, is that we actually, at that moment in time, were talking about God and our purpose in life. And did God have a purpose? And so they didn't take an opportunity or time to come over and talk to us about God. They was on their way, but they didn't come and stop and say, you know what, let me tell you about God or your purpose or whatever. They would rather look over and judge us for what they thought we was doing, which we were, but they was looking at us in a negative sense instead of taking the time to try to empower us, enlighten us, or show us this so-called power that Jesus had that they wanted to give to us, that they were going to church to bless him and raise their hands and say, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. I think the same thing in politics rings true. We cannot ignore anybody. We have to show them the way. We have to show them and teach them and take time to educate and empower them. Why do we feel like, you know, come on, man, we got access to the libraries, the internet, and you ask people, man, why you still broke? Or why you didn't know about this? Didn't you read? No, they didn't know.
Jeff, I agree with you, but I do want to kind of jumping. Jesus does have power. I just want to be clear about
No,
that.
I said-
I heard you. I just want to throw that out
Okay,
there.
I'm just saying, don't make it seem like I said
I know you did not. You and the boys on the corner. I hope y'all realize that.
Because he picked me up,
And he picked all of
turned
us.
me around. And he plays my feet.
On solid ground.
In Missouri City, stay out of Houston. That's where you place your feet. I mess with Jeff. Jeff's my mama council member. She loved that man more than she loved me. But Jeff, you're absolutely correct. You can't. To your point, you're absolutely correct. We have to do that, and we will reach to them, but they have to open up and want to receive what's being said. And I think what Kamala at the top of this ticket with her resume, they are going to. Oh, Jeff, I'm surprised you ain't jumped into this, and I know you need to get off there. They started this narrative about her prosecuting all these black men. When she was prosecuted, I said, let me be clear about this. She was attorney general, not the state legislature who set the laws. And then Jeff Boney and Dwight Boykins go and break the law, and it gets before her. She's just following the state laws.
Yeah, well,
She didn't go and just knocking on doors and prosecute men.
Right.
Now, I don't know. I hadn't tracked her. I'm just saying she did her job. And what Trump is talking about doing doesn't even come close to what she will do for our communities. And what I love about her style, I've been involved with this so long, I listen to the interviews and they try to knock off and try to talk all blacks, black issues or this issue, mainly blacks. She stayed right down the middle because she's governing for the United States of America. And I give her a lot of credit for that. And I look forward to do what I can to help her get over that ticket.
So as we close, I
Yeah.
just want to, also remind everybody that the services for Congresswoman
Yes.
Sheila Jackson Lee are taking place this week. There will be a ceremony, a celebration of life service, community celebration of life service tomorrow at Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church, tomorrow being Wednesday. And it will be held here in Houston, Texas at Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church in Houston's 3rd Ward. And it'll be from 3 p.m. to, I want to say 9 p.m. It's going to be a long ceremony and service, well deserved for the Congresswoman. They've already had 2 events. She was, they had her lying in state at City Hall.
I was there.
Yeah, on Monday. And then, of course, today they had a celebration service for her, community service at God's Grace Church. And so she'll be at Fallbrook Church. That will be the final celebration of life for her. It's slated that I want to say Vice President Kamala Harris will be there to speak, as well as many other dignitaries that are slated to come. President Biden came yesterday and paid his respects at City Hall along with the family. And so we definitely want to remember the Congresswoman because she did so much for our community and for this nation and for this world. She helped bring Brittany Griner home. She was responsible for the Juneteenth legislation that is now law, national holiday. She spearheaded that and pushed that over the finish line, and many, many other things that she's done that, really I could spend a whole show and a half or maybe even 2 talking about the contributions of the Congresswoman. Dr. Sharita Tate, is there a website or a place where people can find out more information about you and your organization?
Yes, it's www.929foundation.org.
www.929foundation.org. All right. With that being said, any other closing comments before we shut it down?
Just want to thank you guys, Kate Davis and Associates, just for having this wonderful platform for us to present and talk about ideas. And thank you, Jeff, for hosting it.
No problem.
Thank you. Same sentiments. Thank you, Kay Davis and Associates. They always are active and in the community, doing great things, and I'm always appreciative of the invitation. And thank you, Jeff.
Oh, thank you. And Kay
Yes.
Davis,
Right?
is here in the building. Let's give it up for Danette K. Davis.
Give it up for these hosts. I want to thank Jeff Boney, Sharita Tate, Dwight Boykins, and Carla Lane, who's off to the side there, what have you, for your wonderful presentations. Everything you guys do for the community is so well received. We appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you. And with that, okay, go to TrendingTuesdays.com and press subscribe. Okay, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you.
All right.
Let me subscribe.
Good job.